Chapter 8 Explosive Crap 1976. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Emiliano Zapata. Boom, boom, boom! Someone pounded on the door. My old and feeble house shook with men's furious fists pounding on our door. Hiding under a cot of our tejamanil, or like little wood house shack that we had, I knew I was guilty. I felt vulnerable under the tar cardboard roofing. In the past, when kids in the neighborhood were angry at me, they had thrown rocks through our black tar cardboard roof, leaving holes in our beautiful shack. What was the floor of our house made of? Well, it was dirt, with an awesome sweet earthy smell, which was paved and smoothed away by my tia Chata. Elio, mijo, we may not have money, but by golly, we will take pride in where we live, what we do, and what we are, she used to say. Every time I heard an adult asking for me at the door, I would hide in my feeble and penetrable fortress. What's on that man's face? It looks like he was sprayed with shit, Grandma Yayita must have wondered while peeking through the door crack. Abra la puerta, doña Yayita! Open the door! I must see your grandson's face to face. Augusto, the neighborhood grouchy old man, yelled. I wish my grandpa were here, I thought, or my uncle. This big bully wouldn't be pounding the door so loud. Besides, he deserved it. He had it coming. This is what happens to bullies. Never back down to bullies. I always listened to every word my grandpa shared with me, especially when it was about victory, retaliation, revenge, or defending one's honor. Both grandpas, Pancho Navarro and Indo Ruiz, had different views about how to go about things. Different worldviews. It was expected. The traditions, customs, and understanding of how things worked were so different. Grandpa Pancho was of Spanish descent, and Grandpa Indo was of Tarascan descent. Two worlds, two grandpas, two views that collided, merged, and landed in my little mind. Freeze the story. But Grandpa, why did you fight against my great-grandpa Indo? I asked. During the Mexican Revolution of 1910, Grandpa Pancho said, your great-grandpa Indo fought on the side of the ungrateful peasants that were asking the government to socialize land and social justice. In my opinion, the rebels wanted a handout. Grandpa Pancho finished. Great-grandpa Indo was not ungrateful, I said, offended. I loved, respected, and admired my Ruiz family. Well, mijo, it's complicated. Grandpa Pancho looked kindly at me, realizing he shouldn't put people down who didn't agree with him. When my family, your family, came from Spain as conquistadores, they amassed their wealth and fortune in California. I had to defend what my ancestors had to work so hard for. So yes, I had to fight the peasants. They were trying to take what was rightfully mine. What is rightfully yours, Grandpa concluded. Back to my story. We shouldn't have retaliated. But Augusto, why did you have to start this? I wanted to stop. Why do you keep on coming back? I thought. Coming back to the present moment. Augusto said that I was one of the neighborhood's rascals and that somebody needed to teach me some manners. However, there was more to the story. The out-of-hand feud started 2 weeks earlier. My friends and I were playing a soccer game in El Aguate Street, which was bumpy, full of gravel, piles of dirt from unfinished projects, stray dogs roaming around, scavenging on trash cans, people sitting outside their doorsteps, ladies gossiping, guys playing dominoes, cards, or whatever. We didn't care about what was happening in or around the street. To us, This street was a great playground where we ran around freely, having fun, being kids. This time, however, the problem was that we were playing outside Augusto's house. He had told us not to be playing outside his house. He didn't like soccer balls bouncing off of his door or kids wrestling around for the ball outside his doorstep. He didn't want noise outside his house, period. "I've told you not to play outside my house, you little bastards," Augusto had yelled while grabbing the soccer ball and kicking it over a fence into a house's yard with a barking dog. "Pinche viejo, me la va a pagar, he will pay. Let's mess up his garden or vandalize his house or something," said Lenin, my cousin. "Hold on, Lenin," I said. "Hold on. I know how we'll get back at this son of a dog. My grandpa says that when somebody messes with you, you first send a message. You don't declare war. Not yet anyway. Let's send a message." Freeze the story. Grandpa Indo had always disagreed with anything Grandpa Pancho had to say. Grandpa Indo said that some people would fight for their self-serving interests and others would fight for what is good for the family, their friends, and the community as a whole. Why did great-grandpa Indo work hard to get his own land? Why didn't he go to school? I asked Grandpa Indo. "Well, mijo, the Mexican system works for the rich, not for the poor. This system is set up so the oppressed don't get a fair shot in life," said Grandpa Indo. "Sometimes revolution is the only way." "Is that why your dad was a revolutionary, Grandpa?" I asked. "Yes, that's why," said Grandpa sadly. "You know, I was not even born when your Grandpa Pancho," said Grandpa Indo angrily, "when Don Pancho and the Federalists killed your great-grandpa Indo." Grandpa?" "Yes, mijo," Grandpa Indo said with teary eyes. "Grandpa Pancho said that it was a fair fight. He says that it was combat where both sides fought honorably and bravely, and that if God had wanted it, great-grandpa Indo would have killed Grandpa Pancho. But Grandpa Pancho says that God wanted it like this." This Mexican Revolution battle had taken place in the center square of Apatzingan in 1918. Great-grandpa Indo fought with the rebels, fighting for a better government and better social justice. Grandpa Pancho had fought with Los Federales, the side that wanted to keep things as they were. No social reform was needed, they claimed. Back to my story. "What the?" Augusto muttered quietly when he stood outside his house. He touched and smelled the sticky brown substance behind his front door padlock. "Bastards!" he screamed, enraged when he realized the mushy matter was what he thought it was. Earlier that afternoon, our tireless gang of 10-year-olds had carefully plastered shit on the back of Augusto's front door padlock as a payback for kicking our soccer ball into the fence yard with a barking dog. We hoped he wouldn't mess with us anymore. We took turns discharging our stinky fecal matter in separate piles. After looking, touching, and even smelling the samples, we chose the ones that had a solid consistency. The most sticky, not runny, not crumbly. This shit sample had to stick. The time had come. "Yeah, that's right, you son of a dog, that's right." Lenin smiled while watching from his hiding place. All of us kids were giggling and rejoicing at the sight of Augusto's enraged face when he touched and even smelled our message. The plan had stuck. "That'll teach him," Lenin said quietly. The very next day, Augusto waited patiently for the soccer game to begin. Once we started playing, he came out and pounced on the ball like an angry hen. He'd been waiting up all night, planning how he was going to teach this pack of dirty, good-for-nothing 10-year-olds not to mess with respectable, hard-working members of the community. He had a plan. He was going to hit where it hurt. He was going to, once and for all, get us little rascals to play somewhere else. "Don't!" I cried. The grouchy old man had just stabbed the ball with a kitchen knife. The team of kids couldn't believe it. The old bastard. The old bastard had just killed our source of enjoyment. He had just flattened the only soccer ball we had with a knife. Well, it belonged to Lenin. He had gotten it for Christmas. And his dad, my Uncle Isidro, had told him to take care of it because it was expensive and it was leather. "That'll teach you scoundrels!" Augusto yelled at us before he marched back into his house. We were furious. Freeze the story. The Navarros and the Ruiz feud, my grandpa's family feud, originated from that fatal combat during the Mexican Revolution. This never-ending animosity always confused me. I loved both of my families, but they didn't like each other. Why did my mom marry my dad then? I used to think. Why don't people learn from stories like that of Romeo and Juliet? Why don't they save their kids from taking sides with their own families? Back to my story. Boom, boom, boom! We banged on Augusto's front door as hard as we could. Then we ran like hell. We ran as roaches do in all directions when somebody turns on the kitchen lights. "That's it! That's it, you little weasels! That did it!" The old man marched fearless towards the door. He walked with the certainty of a mad dog ready to confront whoever was at his front door. A few moments earlier, as if on cue, we took turns crapping on a 2x2 piece of cardboard. This time we didn't discriminate on the quality of our stool samples. This time we piled it up. We even threw in some dog shit we found laying on the street. Once we compiled the stinky contents, we were satisfied with the size, quality, and texture of our own homemade landmine. We placed the heavy and sagging piece of cardboard with its stinky cargo outside Augusto's doorstep. Then, we carefully submerged a mega firecracker into the putrid mound of the rotting bomb. It was one of those triple-size firecrackers, so big that it sounded like a gunshot when it detonated, like a big caliber gunshot. Next, just like a coordinated team of Navy SEALs, we ignited the homemade landmine while banging furiously on Augusto's front door. When we heard his cussing and yelling, we ran away like a pack of scared coyotes. "What?" was the half word that came out of Augusto's mouth when he saw what was waiting for him at his front step. He didn't have a chance. He was powerless and helpless as a baby bird in the middle of a shitstorm. Augusto froze when he saw the ignited landmine threatening to burst like a septic volcano ready to discharge its foul contents into an open sky. The glory of that moment was so great that I recalled it in slow motion. Augusto looked one way and then the other. Then, in that absurd and incongruent moment, he looked down. His eyes said it all. He couldn't believe it. He didn't know whether to step on the flaming wick coming out of the threatening pile of shit or to run for his life. That must have been his last incomplete thought before the improvised explosive exploded into a million pieces, its putrid cardboard contents going in all directions, covering at least a radius of 20 feet around. Boom! Splat! Venganza! As shit exploded, sprayed and plastered everywhere, mainly on Augusto's face, chest, and, well, everywhere, a cry of victory could be heard throughout El Aguate. Our gang of 10-year-olds were euphoric. Our pain had been redeemed and our honor restored.
Juan, Colorado me llaman, soy señores de Michoacán. Ya hasta los más salidones al mirarme muchos se van. Traigo mi cuerpo una silla que es de cuero, plata y marfil. Al ciento para que entre en mí, que viva mi tierra Michoacán y deme charanda para brindar, que Juan Colorado ya está aquí, montado en su cueco en huracán. Juan, de Ganagan, que viva mi tierra Michoacán y deme charanda para brindar, que Juan Colorado ya se va montado en su cuenco en huracán.